Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons and whether Dungeons & Dragons can be used for society modeling. Alright, so let's get into this. So I'm 100% convinced that Dungeons & Dragons is not a game. I think it's fundamentally more than a game. I think Dungeons & Dragons is an element of Americana that is a vector for art, literature, gaming that an engaged participant can use to better their lives. So I don't think it's a game at all. I think it's something fundamentally different, and the idea of game is frankly insulting to what Dungeons & Dragons actually is. Okay? So with that said, my mind is constantly, well, if that's the case, if it's this powerful tool, what can it be used to do? And I've been thinking about this more and more, and I think Dungeons & Dragons may be able to be used for society modeling. Now, that is not a term that exists yet at any kind of a macro level. Society modeling is a creation of my own. And what is society modeling? Well, I think society modeling is specifically an activity that can be conducted with Dungeons & Dragons with the sole purpose of solving specific American society problems. Right? Now, why would it be limited to America? Well, the biggest reason is Dungeons & Dragons is an American game. It's 47 years old, and there may be a point where it truly is an international product and where the influence of the international is larger than the American, but we're very much not there yet, right? We still have a lot. I think Dungeons & Dragons is still an American product, and it's still an element of Americana, okay? And so I think if you were trying to use Dungeons & Dragons to solve problems outside of America, it might be a mismatch. But I think that Dungeons & Dragons can be used to solve American society problems through society modeling. So let me explain what this concept is. So basically, let's take an example. Okay, so in summer 2020, in the summer of 2020, America had a very serious issue where America was looking, it was looking internally, and it was saying, it looks like we have a major problem with not all cultures in America are treated equally. And some cultures in America get the short end of the stick when it comes to how they're treated by law enforcement, how they are commercially remunerated, whether offenses that have been done to them in the past are acknowledged and paid for, right? Major issue. It's a societal problem saying not all cultures in America are treated equally. Even in 2021, where we know they should all be treated equally, we still have this mismatch. We still have this issue where not all cultures are being treated equally, right? So does Dungeons & Dragons have any ability to help in this circumstance? I'm not saying yes positively yet, because this is still in the concept phase for me, but I think the answer is yes, and I want to kind of walk you through it, and here's how it could happen. So one, there are thousands of game masters. Dungeon masters. There are thousands of dungeon masters. I think without a doubt, there's easily 500,000 dungeon masters, okay, in the world. Actually, 500,000 American dungeon masters, right? That would only be one in like 600 people in America, right? And I think we're definitely over that, right? So if we take for granted that there's 500,000 dungeon masters if there's 500,000 dungeon masters in America, one of the things you could do right out of the gate is you could take 99% of them off the board, because what we're talking about is the deepest end of the pool for Dungeons & Dragons and for cultural understanding and for risk-taking with Dungeons & Dragons as a tool, okay? Because if you're going to do society modeling and you get it wrong, there could be implications to that, right? So just take 99% of the Dungeon Masters and take them off the board, okay? That leaves you with 5,000 Dungeon Masters, right? Now, that pool, 1% of the Dungeon Master pool, which is about 5,000 American Dungeon Masters, you got some real rock stars in that group, okay? You have Hollywood writers, you have lawyers, you have doctors, okay? You have people with 2, 3, 4 degrees. You have people who speak multiple languages. You have people who know more about woke culture than and how to achieve woke goals than some people that have forgotten more about achieving woke goals than other people have even ever known, right? These are literally some of the smartest, most charismatic, most capable, most well-funded people in America. There's no two ways about that, okay? And the reason why is Dungeons & Dragons is self-selecting for smart, educated, and frankly, once you say smart and educated, you're also often saying rich, right? Like, it's self-selecting for these things. Because what hobby is like, hey, you want to play this hobby? Read these 750 pages. You get rid of so many people right out of the gate, right? That all that's left are super capable, super intelligent, super charismatic, effective people, right? So if you have these 5,000 game masters and they have this ability to create these games, and they have an ability to bring people to the table, to bring 4 players to the table, okay? That is the possibility of running 5,000 simulations, okay, of an American problem, okay? So now, of course, you know, when you run that in Dungeons & Dragons is structured around fantasy, right? So, but there's already a structure for this in Dungeons & Dragons, right? Dungeons & Dragons is very much centered around, it's systematized Tolkien, okay? Systematized Lord of the Rings. And so you already have 3 cultures that are engaged in conflict, okay? Humans in Tolkien. Humans, dwarves, and elves, right? They're engaged in conflict, and you know, are both dwarves and elves treated equally among humans? Do both dwarves and elves treat each other with reciprocal kindness and respect? They don't, right? Like, that's super clear in Tolkien, right? So you already have this structure for cultures that are at conflict, exactly like America, right? Now what you have is you have 5,000 tables with incredibly smart, incredibly rich, and rich is the only reason why rich matters is they have resources. And if you're going to do modeling, science costs. Science ain't free, right? You need controls, you need tools, you need metrics. None of that's free. You need money, right? And so you know, when I say rich, I'm not trying to be like elitist or exclusionary here. You need money, right? Like, no science is free. It's the way. It's how the world's shaped, right? So, with all that said, you find yourself in this situation where you're moving forward, and you find yourself with 5,000 incredibly capable people. Every single one of those, if you're talking top tier dungeon master, every single one of them could put a four player game together, and they can construct a model, a society model, saying, okay, in this, we're going to represent this culture with this culture, right? And I'm going to set up the bowling pins, and I'm not going to bring any kind of a solution. I'm just going to put the problem in front of the players. And then you are running 5,000 simulations of a problem, okay? If those DMs come back and in some kind of orchestrated, concerted way, report back their metrics and say, we have this solution, this solution, this solution, this solution. Some of the solutions can obviously just be logically thrown out, right? But some of the solutions very well may be solutions that have not occurred to anyone in the U.S. to try. Just even small tactics, large tactics, large strategies, small strategies, all these different things are really critical to building this structure of a solution. And you could do it for no money, right? Because DMs run, you know, essentially all they would be doing is just modifying their game, right? And those DMs, the top 1% of all dungeon masters in America, they're going to have the resources to do this, right? And frankly, I think, you know, it's highly unlikely that many of them would be like, I'm not wasting my time on that. I really think if this was set as a goal by the D&D community, it absolutely could be achieved, right? The only risk would be if these games were run poorly and then made public, right? And so I think all of these games would need to be private. None of them would be streamed, right? And then the aggregation of the data would be done anonymously, right? And I think doing all of that, you could reduce the risk, which there's very little risk to this, I think. And then you have a possibility of producing, just be based on numbers, a solution that no one had thought of at very low cost. This is something the government is completely incapable of. This is something that the partisans are completely incapable of, but this group that's off to the side that has this very unusual, very unique, and very new talent and ability very well may be able to produce solutions, may be able to identify solutions that no other group in America can identify. I think that's exciting. I think that's a very real possibility. I now turn it over to you. What do you think? Do you think there's dangers I'm not recognizing that we would need to think about before we put something like this into place? Do you think society modeling using Dungeons and Dragons with 1% of the dungeon masters in America could produce actual solutions, actual tactics and strategies that nobody had thought of, because this relatively safe, expensive, but the cost is being picked up by the D&D community solution is used? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.